A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum Xtra. Spectrum Xtra, we review the major events of the week. We'll be looking at a couple of things. One, we'll be following the campaign trail where the 8 presidential candidates continue to traverse the countryside looking for votes. President Yoweri Museveni from the NRM spent the whole week in Teso sub-region. He focused a lot on the achievements that have been made in infrastructure, provision of water, electricity, education, among others. He promised to ensure that all areas of Teso that have not received such services are attended to. He also promised to address the long-standing pledge of compensation for cattle which was lost. Well, this is in reaction to a section of politicians who have been running a campaign dubbed No Cows, No Vote in the Teso sub-region. Now, this region has big wigs in the government, including the Speaker of Parliament, the Vice President, and a couple of ministers in cabinet. Now, the main challenger, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu of the NUP, campaigned in the parts of Buganda, Gomba, Lyantonde, and Butambala district, where he talked about issues to do with land, tribalism, the need for national unity, before switching his attention to Western Uganda. He has so far campaigned in Kiruhura, Isingiro district, and today he was in Mbarara city and Mbarara district. His message has been about national unity and an end to tribalism. He actually says he will work also on roads, service delivery, stressing that it's sad that an area that many people thought is developed on account of having leaders in power still has so many challenges. Now, one of the things that we have seen on the campaign trail, especially in Western Uganda, in a town called Sanga, was the clash between NUP supporters and NRM supporters. And Kyagulanyi has expressed concern about this particular issue. But we also saw the FDC party presidential candidate Nathan Nandala Mafobi, who was in Bugisu sub-region, saying that NUP supporters were seen beating supporters of FDC in some parts of that area. Now, in Bugisu, Nandala Mafobi has promised to address poverty as he continues with his campaign, tagged along money in your pockets. You might have heard in our news there's been an incident in Mbarara where the police intercepted the NUP presidential candidate and his entourage as they left their first campaign rally to go to a place known as Bizwera Town Council, where they were scheduled to address their second rally. And from the sound clip played on air, you can hear Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu urging the Electoral Commission to intervene in what he thinks are systematic attacks against his campaign trail. So we'll be looking at some of these issues in detail. This week has also been dominated by the debate around the Nachivo Channel development and the city floods. Now, following the heavy rains that we saw towards the end of last week and the floods that came in Kampala, this matter became topical during the course of this week. There are experts who weighed in and said, well, it was a bad idea to construct to undertake that particular project without doing a study to understand fully the likely implications. Others have said it can go on after remedial works. And indeed, a team led by Robin Anabanja, the Prime Minister, and engineers from the Ministry of Works and Transport did direct the developer Hamis Chigundu to carry out remedial measures and ensure that water that has been going into malls now flows back into the channel. KCCA Council that is being pointed at for allegedly sanctioning the development had resolved that the project be stopped. It has also emerged that the developer had begun seeking for a permit and a lease for the 48 acres of land, which is the total area covered by the unachievable channel. We'll be looking at this situation, and the big question we're asking, how do we avoid such situations going forward? We know there's a strike by Kasita, Kampala City Traders Association. The traders are complaining about high taxes on imported goods, especially garments. They say it's becoming burdensome. They're also complaining about foreigners who are engaged in retail business. They're also concerned about high rent and utility costs. Now, these are almost the same challenges that they raised before a strike was carried out, but suspended in August of this year. So far, we have not heard of any resolution, but we'll be looking into detail. How can we have such issues addressed sustainably? I have a panel of 4 people to discuss these issues in detail. Let me introduce Mr. Job Kija. Is a governance expert and a team lead at Innovations for Democratic Engagement and Action, IDEA. Good evening, Job. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
Good evening, Kenneth, and thank you for hosting me here today.
Also in studio, we have Miss Marion Chirabo. She's the NUP candidate for LOC5 Women Councillor. Makerere University. Good evening, Marion. Thank you for turning up.
Good evening to you, Kenneth. Thank you for having us.
We'll also have Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, is a political economist, researcher and columnist with The Observer, and Mr. Tony Tumukunde, advocate, pundit on governance and human rights issues, is a member of the NRM party. Now, the two gentlemen are on the way to join this discussion. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line, 0703-090-090. We do value your feedback because it helps in shaping the discussion here in studio. Job, I want to begin with you on this issue of the campaign trail. I know from your work as a civil society actor, somebody who follows issues to do with governance, elections, generally politics, to say, you've been following the campaign trail from the time it started, but we're trying to focus a little bit on this particular week. You saw the candidates where they were, the crowds they pulled, the issues they put across. What is your major highlight so far?
I think for me the major highlight is the fact that this week has been the most gruesome that we have had. For those of us that track election violence, I can say I think so far this is the peak of the election violence that we have seen on the entire campaign trail, because the previous weeks, I think we saw the events of Lango sub-region, whereby the police raided the hotels and then vandalized and pepper sprayed and arrested a couple of the individuals on the team for Robert Kyagulanyi. We hadn't yet seen sponsored violence, whereby, because clearly you can see that from the events of yesterday but one in Kiruhura. These, a couple of the people that have been identified, if you've followed on social media and even communication with some of the NUP people, you can actually see that these are names of people that we even know in Kampala. So these are people that, and people in the security, which is very unfortunate, that are dressed in civilian clothes. So these are people that traveled all the way from Kampala and went to Kiruhura to cause mayhem, which I think is very unfortunate. We hadn't yet seen that on the campaign trail so far. And also when you hear the man of mobilization, I think it is the mayor that mobilized the council, and then people came with all sorts of fabricated gadgets, and they were causing mayhem on the Kyagulanyi team. You saw stones flying around. You saw people with sticks, because some of the people that were on the ground, they actually said that they saw military trucks and police trucks as well on the ground, police officers, military officers, SFC, etc. So clearly you can see that this was criminality that was supervised by the official security apparatus, which I think is really, really very unfortunate. And for me, what even is more worrying is the fact that this is an area where the president comes from. So it clearly portrays a picture of the president and his people that are intolerant to other people. I think really in terms of reception, this is the area where every presidential candidate should be received, because as far as we understand, President Museveni and his government have been allegedly promoting democracy over the past 40 years. It is one of the key highlights of the 10-point program, which President Museveni sought to put in place when he took over power. So for me, the mere fact that this level of violence and intolerance can actually be witnessed in the area where the president comes from, it really paints a very bad image of the president himself, of his people, and it puts him off as and his people as those that are not.
Do you think the president was behind this?
Sorry?
Do you think the president was behind this?
Well, the mere fact that he hasn't yet condemned it, I think for me, I would actually say that he's complicit. These are his people.
All right. All right. Let's move on.
This is his background. He should actually have condemned it by now. He should have said, no, my people, you can't behave like that. That is not how we behave. I do not condone it, and I surely discourage you from treating any other presidential candidate like that, at least for his backyard.
All right. Let's move on and hear from Marion. Marion, let's hear your view about the campaign process this particular week. We've heard from Job Kija here, but what's your perspective as the NUP?
Well, picking up from that conversation that we had with Job and Yusuf, I would say that, well, they purported to act in his name. So if they purported to act in his name and he has not denied them, so probably they did it in his. They did it on his behalf, because at least that's what
we have had a situation where we have actually been told that some people are overzealous. They take matters into their hands.
Then you condemn it as a leader. You condemn their actions. Just because people have carried out, let me say, killings in your name, and you just keep on quiet, that's a way of condoning what they have done. So he should be able to come out and say that, my people, stop that. What you're doing is totally divorced from the campaign that I am running. I am not running a violent campaign. I actually I am respectful of having every other contestant participate fairly on an leveled ground. Let people be able to hear what he has to say, and I will also come there and also campaign. It's simple like that. So if you are a leader, you should be able to put out such a statement. But for me, I think it also just goes to show the level of fear. I think they did not expect that amount of crowds or support. I think that it kind of shocked them to see that crowd of people being mobilized without any, people just come on their own. For us as NUP, we do not kusomba buses, as I would say in quotes. We don't do transport refund, and we certainly do not do lunch and supper. So for people to just come of their own volition and come to the stadium to actually listen to Chagula and come to his rallies, that actually shows real support. At least they're interested in knowing what he has to say as a person, and they don't have any biases against him. Like the narrative has been going, NUP, your message only reaches as far as Buganda, doesn't go beyond. People don't know you beyond. Clearly, they know who Mr. Chagulanyi is, and they are willing to listen to what he has to say. And I think for those people who constantly, I think, lie to their flag bearer, General Museveni, that he's the only person who has influence in the West, I think they have been put to shame. The other thing is, I think what I read out of this situation mostly should come out is that it is no longer, there's no longer subject of doubt to who causes the violence in elections. Before there was propaganda that is us NUP who start the fight, who starts throwing stones, and who starts to see clearly every place that we have gone to and we have not been interfered with, it has been peaceful. We have not had any incidences, but whenever the police or security or the army comes in to interfere with us, or goons from NRM come in to interfere with us, that is when the violence starts. And the violence always comes from their end, and they are the one who are always ready to cause hostility wherever they go. So I think for me, those are the two things that are clear. One, we have support across the country, but also two, the violence always starts from security and from the government.
All right, let's hear from you, Dr. Serunkuma. Your quick thoughts about what has happened so far on the campaign trail before we widen the discussion deeper.
I just have a couple of comments, maybe informal questions to Mario and Bob. The first question is that possibly people wearing red berets and dressed in red overalls will commit crimes, and they claim to have done so in the name of NUP. And I'm just wondering whether Robert Chagulanyi will be challenged to condemn it. But before we anticipate future violence by people supposedly donned in NUP regalia, social media people who often insult NUP adversaries, they are said to be doing so in the name of NUP. And NUP, Robert Chagulanyi specifically, is often tasked to tell his people to stop insulting. Right? So I'm just wondering if you're aware of the possibility that the same demands are going to be made to people that I think even Robert Chagulanyi may never have known about their actions.
So your point is that probably the NRM presidential candidate is not aware of what's transpired.
It's a possibility. So it's a possibility. So that's why. You want to respond?
Yeah, I want to respond to this because you see there are two things. First of all, we have seen people that have been identified as security officers.
Yes.
Okay? Attributed to certain security agencies.
Yes. ISO.
We have a commander-in-chief that commands the security, the security apparatus. I think by now the commander-in-chief should have asked for an explanation from the heads of those different security agencies. Secondly,
probably has not known what has transpired.
Well, if he has not known that his intelligence system then is quite it's not as effective as it should be if he's not aware. But then number two, we had security agencies on the ground that have actually been pictured. The police and the military were present as this mayhem was being undertaken, and they did not intervene to even stop it. But also following that, we have heard that the security apparatus actually followed up the members of NUP and arrested 20 of them the night before. NUP has reported, but we haven't seen any report to the effect that the people on the other side that were pelting stones and holding sticks, etc. We have seen the videos of the people that were holding sticks and beating and throwing stones. They are there, they're identifiable. But up to now, they have not yet been apprehended. So for me, if the picture is like that, it actually clearly shows that the commander-in-chief is not commanding as they should be, or they actually are beneficiaries of this mess.
Okay. Would you like to respond, Marion, because the question was directed to both of you?
Part to that question, but Marion respond.
Yes, Marion.
No, I'm in total agreement with Job. Like these are people that we can identify, that we can pinpoint who they belong to, their job description, and we can actually trace them. But also, like I was commenting on what Job was saying, it just goes to show that maybe he's not in charge. This thing that he keeps on saying that he's in charge of the security, I mean, if he cannot control simple ISO operatives and cannot give an order for them to stop, then perhaps that is a vote. Perhaps we should start passing a vote of no confidence because he's no longer the commander-in-chief. If he cannot control.
There was part two of the question that there are certain things that have been attributed to foot soldiers of the NUP. Should we also be asking?
I think there's a difference between freedom of speech and actual causing harm, violence. I think those two things should be distinguishable. The fact that one, like we have pointed out, that these security people are. You can identify someone. Usually what happens on social media is that we don't even know the identities of the people who are what? Who are actually making these comments. You can come up one day and be like, I've decided to just set up this account, perhaps in false names, and catfish everyone, and people think that you're an NUP supporter. There has not bring any proof to actually show that these people are what? NUP supporters or legitimate. They could be masquerading as such. But these ones are actually security officials who have designated positions in the police. And so there's a clear distinction between them.
Okay, so part two is this.
We actually need to move on. Dr. Serunkuma, we need to hear your view of the campaign trail.
The first part was a preamble to a bigger question.
Well, I'm in charge of asking questions.
And I'm happy about their responses. Their responses are convincing to a degree.
Let's hear your take.
No, we're missing a core part of the convention, which forms my bigger take. I want to ask, do you think it will change anything if Yoweri Museveni condemned violence? Or do you think Museveni equals violence?
You will respond to that in a second round, but we need to hear from you, Yusuf.
The bigger comment for me is that...
Because time is not on our side.
The bigger comment for me is that, we signed up to a circus of a democracy. And one of the things that bores me is when I hear my friends in mainstream opposition arguing for Yoweri Museveni to behave like this is UK democracy. Right? I find it extremely painful that we have all, sort of signed up to, a facade of democracy. We know Museveni is an autocrat. We say this every single day in our lives. For the last 40 years, Museveni has presided over an autocracy.
Well, your friends seem to think there's democracy, and that's why they're participating in the elections.
That's what I'm saying is the pretense that, it's the circus we've signed up to, that we think there's a democracy in this country. And instead of going down to the actual work of building this country, we seem to be interested in building a democracy project. So that I find very painful, that, you expect a snake to behave and bite with poison. And then when it bites you, you say, but I thought this was a rabbit. You see, that bothers me that in this, every time we go into the electoral process, we demand of Yoweri Museveni to behave like a rabbit, in actual sense is a poisonous snake. You see, so this is what bothers me with my friends in the opposition. And I think in signing up to this circus, we've denied ourselves the language and the tools and the thinking and the community to build this country. Because
now,
you see, Anderson, let me
Dr.
extend this a little
while
further.
you are entitled to your view, you cannot describe a national exercise like an election, which is constitutional, being held within the laws of this country, as a circus. Surely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on good ground. But it's entertaining. It has the attributes of a circus. It's entertaining. It's noisy. It's disorderly. It's costly. To participate, you have to pay. That's a circus in some way. But let me say this, Anderson. You know, first of all, the results of the core component of this election is known to everybody. William Museveni is going to be declared winner. He might not win, but he's going to be declared winner. We know that. It's a public secret. We know that Museveni is going to have a majority in Parliament. The NRM majority in Parliament. It's a public secret. We know that the NUP failed to even field candidates elsewhere, right? So which means many of these guys are competing against themselves.
Even NRM failed to field candidates.
So many people are competing against themselves as a party. So we know the core ingredients that can bring about reform are already predetermined. You're going to have Mr. Museveni as president. You're going to have majority NRM in Parliament, which means for every core decision which affects us, which is decided by numerical strength in Parliament, Museveni will take the day.
But isn't that what democracy calls for?
Let me say this.
The will of the people. The majority win the seats in Parliament. They win the presidential election.
That's what I'm saying, that it's a public secret. We're not even waiting for the results. This man, you see, when a presidential candidate participates in a race wearing a bulletproof vest, you can't masquerade this democracy.
All right.
When the incumbent appoints the man in charge of counting, and the incumbent has power to throw Yabakama away from being in charge 2 days to the polls, you can't masquerade this a democracy. That's what I'm saying. That what I think that bothers me is that we sort of agreed to hold on to this circus instead of sitting and say, how do we collectively build this country?
All right. So let's now go for this commercial break, and then when we return, we'll hear from Tony Tumukunde, who comes from the NRM, and then we'll open up the discussion and continue to look at what has transpired on the campaign trail. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming by the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Spectrum. We're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum Xtra live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today we are reviewing the major events of the week. We are still looking at what has transpired this week on the campaign trail. I have four panelists: Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, political economist, researcher and columnist with the Observer newspaper; Mr. Job Kija, governance expert and team lead at Innovative for Democratic Engagement and Action IDEA; Ms. Marion Chirabo, she's the NUP candidate for LOC 5 Woman Councillor, Makerere University; and Mr. Tony Tumukunde, advocate pundit on governance, human rights issues. He also comes from the NRM party. Now, Mr. Tumukunde, you sat in here, you listened to your colleagues dissecting the issues, and clearly you've taken on board their concerns. Can we hear your response, or probably your take on what has transpired on the campaign trail this week?
Okay, thank you, Anderson, and to our listeners. As numbers have not seen that, because he has not come out to prove whether they are in ISO, whether they are in CMI, whether they are UPDF people. We are still waiting. But that also tells you so much. If the UPDF has not yet had information about such people, but for you, before they even pelt a stone against people, you have information. It can tell you that some of these people are planted by them, put on yellow T-shirts, pelt stones, and then cause violence and turn out to be NRM.
Are you trying to run away from what happened?
I'm not running. It is very possible. If the Supreme Court has stated that, it's very possible.
Did you see those people?
I have seen them. We cannot confirm that they are from the UPDF. We cannot confirm that they are from the security companies. They have an investigating body led by TABS. If you could actually give us information that this is where they have been seeing that some of them work here, work in this such and such a place. So for me, if they could give us, then it's a point of investigation. But then my point is, that cannot be attached to President Museveni. You cannot say that because the presidential candidate of NUP was in Chiruhura campaigning, they beat up people, the president should actually be condemned, and that should affect the support that he has.
They are not his agents.
They are not his agents, and the Supreme Court has stated who an agent is. But also the Supreme Court has stated that in such scenarios where people are putting on party T-shirts, then you need independent evidence to put them to the side of the other opponent.
All right, let's continue. I want to go back to Job. Job, you began this discussion, and then we'll go to Serenkum and then Katumani. Yes, Job.
So, I would, if Tony was in the security forces, I would be saying that he's probably competing for the job of, I think, one of the former spokespersons of the police. But I will not go there.
What Tony is telling you, so that none of those people you saw holding the sticks were ordered by President Yoweri Museveni or the NRM party to do so.
So for me, you see, and this is what we've been grappling with about President Museveni, and maybe that's the disadvantage that he has, that he's both a presidential candidate, but he's also
an incumbent.
He's also an incumbent. He's the head of state, he's the commander-in-chief, he's the fountain of honor. So as commander-in-chief, he commands the security forces, okay? So by now, as considering that we are in such a sensitive period, which is an election period, the commander-in-chief should have called out the perpetrators of that violence. The Electoral Commission has not yet even issued a statement. Maybe the security forces, because this narrative has been going around social media and everywhere, even the NUP and other candidates have actually addressed press conferences, and they have blamed the security apparatus. One of the security forces should have issued a statement by now or given an explanation on what happened, and the mere fact that the police was there, the military was there, they supervised this thing going on.
So you're asking for action.
So we need action, we need accountability. Now, secondly, Tony, you are alleging that there's been online violence, okay, by people associated with the NUP or the presidential candidate of NUP. Now, what we have seen on the contrary is that there's been a lot of online violence actually from both ends, okay? There are even official state officials that have actually meted out violence in the UPDF and other places. But what we have seen is that the people that are associated with NUP that have apparently been indulging in hate speech and whatever have actually been remanded. The other day I saw a shoe seller that has been remanded for 12 months. There's a university student, TikTokers, so many through the Entebbe court are in jail over expressing their all these Eddie Mutweza and whatever. Yes. There's this guy, the guy of parliament, who was, I think, arrested. Yeah. No, the CID guy who was arrested apparently for incitement of violence. Twine, if you read the charge sheets, the things there were really quite strange. So for me, the mere fact that you can see the people that...
See, Joe, that is the best example.
Hold on. The mere fact that the people that are affiliated with the NUP are arrested and locked up, and yet at the highest point of security, we have security officers that are clearly engaging in partisan politics. They are threatening violence. They are threatening to behead people, to remove people's teeth, and they are still serving generals in the UPDF. I think for me that shows that the regime is actually a beneficiary of this violence, and they are meting out this violence against the opposition finally. You are talking about people ferried from Mukono and I don't know, Mitiana and wherever to Goma. Now, me, I'm a researcher, okay? As a researcher, I deal with evidence. Now, we have seen, for instance, chief administrative officers writing letters to schools, ordering them to free... to free students. And I mean, for me, when you don't come out to actually clear the air, it means that you have accepted this to be the official position. Now, we have seen buses, actually, we have seen them ferrying people from different locations to certain locations in respect to a certain political party. Now, the people you are alleging, I don't know what research you have done and what data you can give us, that of the people that were in Gomba, maybe 10,000, 8,000 of those were ferried from different locations. All right. You need to come with that evidence. Give it to us and then we can believe you.
All right, let's go to Dr. Serunkuma.
I hear you, Joe. Okay. I mean, two things I want to say. First, I'm going to ask that the people in the opposition, I love you very much, don't open the door of...
The opposition is this one.
That's
my research. I'm from the opposition.
But leaning to opposition.
Don't open the door of condemnation. Right? The example that you gave us of people being arrested for their online violence, the demand is on NUP to condemn. But if security...
Actually, they are being victimized.
Let me finish this point. But if security picks up somebody, takes them to court, and then they throw them in jail, that's a different matter. And a UPDF spokesperson, a police spokesperson will tell you, when our people commit crimes, we investigate and actually arrest them and put them in jail. They'll tell you that. They'll respond very quickly, and that will be finished. But I'm saying, once you open the door of condemnation, there will be many, many crimes committed in the name of, and the challenge for you to condemn will be overwhelming. Once you open the door of demanding that top leaderships of political parties condemn,
Yusuf, actually, let him conclude. I think criminality needs to be dealt with, whether it is meted out by NUP or NRM, it should be dealt with. We shouldn't really entertain criminality.
Let's allow
what we saw in Kirura, that is criminality.
And so you support that.
That is criminality.
You support that NUP president can also...
Guys,
generally, if he commits a crime, he should be arrested.
Let's allow Yusuf to submit.
Just
like
listen to you. There are three parts of this argument before you respond. So the first part is that once you open the door of condemnation, there will be many, many things, people wearing, NUP colors, and they're in senior saying things which are dangerous, so doing things that are dangerous, and there will be demand for the top leadership of NUP to condemn them. And once that door is opened, then more things will be done by whoever just to keep you busy with condemnation. And once you fail, there'll be repercussions, right? And I want to say this also. You said the Electoral Commission has not issued a statement, or the president hasn't. But that's typical government of Yoweri Museveni. Even on serious things way beyond electoral violence, such as Chitezi, such as floods here, such as things there, they take forever to respond. They take forever to issue statements. So it's about the inefficiency of this government, not because it's a deliberate intention not to respond. They're inefficient in every aspect of their lives.
Maybe they take time to study. They take time to study. President Yoweri Museveni has been responding to some of these incidents using his social media handle, and his information has always been handy.
But he responds on one issue, doesn't respond on this one.
But he has responded.
There's no concentrated effort to respond on every single incident.
Well, you cannot determine how he responds.
No, you're heckling.
No, I'm not heckling. Like you normally sit down and you write your column in the Observer. Nobody dictates how you should write.
So everything that goes up touches the president. The president doesn't respond to all of those things. And I'm just saying, don't open the door to demand that he responds, because that door will be returned to NUP and you'll be kept busy in respond. I'll give you another example. Maybe it'll be maybe not suitable for now. Maybe another conversation. Then the other thing I would say also is that I'm trying to pretend that I also believe in this democracy circus, right? When you condemn people ferrying supporters from wherever, there's no problem with that. In an actual mature democracy, you can ferry your supporters from wherever, right? You can actually ask schools, if they're in support, to open their doors to school children to go and support their candidate. That's okay. The problem in this country is that only NRM does that. Only NRM is allowed to do that. Because you see, I would have no problem with, say, the office in Mbaro, NUP office in Mbaro, organizing to ferry supporters to Kirura if they've been collecting money and organizing. What's the problem with them going to rally showing support? It's part of the democracy. The problem is that we've made it look like a problem of a democratic space. The problem is not ferrying supporters or having skilled children. The problem is that only NRM is allowed to do that. Only NRM is allowed to organize. That's the problem with it. So if you play the democracy game, everything is on the table.
Tony has told you NUP ferried supporters from Mitiana, Mowenda, and all these places to go to Gomba. So if that's true,
as a lawyer, he has evidence.
If that's true, it's not only NRM that is doing it.
He has no evidence.
He said, Evitaina Makuli to go like
As you wind up.
That's what I said at the very beginning. That this is the problem with signing up to a circus. You see, we are not serious. This man comes here, we can just make up things. You see, and it flies. Because it's a circus. You don't have to be real.
He's also going to say you're making up things.
No, but I'm telling you.
But for instance,
you hear this thing all the time. And my problem is that you see, because you see now the burden of proof is asked to ask him, where did you see, do you have video footage, do you have that? And you see, the laboriousness of that process, he knows you will not go that way.
All right.
You see, so we're not going to fact check him.
So as you
And
wind
he
up,
knows that. That's what I'm saying. Signing up to Circus is dangerous because you get responses like this. But I'll say one more time. Don't open the door of condemnation. Because there will be many, many people unknown to you who will just dress up in red and who will chant NUP slogans, and you'll be kept busy condemning.
all right. Would you like to come in, Marion?
And they have given T-shirts.
Tony first.
Marion Sparta has given
Okay, Tony.
their supporters NRM T-shirts to come and change and turn to be as if they are new converts into NUP. I would give you an example.
Where did they
Bring
get them
Let's
from?
allow him.
First, have we ever sat down and told you this and that? You're the ones who bring them. You're the ones who bring them.
Let's allow
You
him.
masquerade them as NUP supporters. When have we ever come to give you supporters? You should take them.
Marion, I'm giving you examples.
You don't
In
know what
Bujiri,
they-
you gave over 100 people.
Marion, let's allow Tony
Turned
to
them.
land.
When Right Honorable Kadaga went, they actually confessed that the NUP president, every night he goes, what they do, these people, when they're in a hotel, they have now started staging crowds. The president is coming in a hotel in Imbara. They mobilize. It's okay. This is campaigning. It's okay. You can mobilize. Then the public will be shocked as if people were waiting for the president at exactly 6 a.m. That is okay. That is their
campaign strategy.
That's their campaign strategy. I could tell you that right now. I want you to give me an example, Job, of a district where you've seen buses ferry people, crowds where President Museveni has been. If people have moved, for example, I could give you an example. The biggest crowd, I think, has been in Bukedea. But you have seen how much mobilization that has been done. We have artists that have gone. We have now the Bebe Cools and all that. They go days before. Right now, they are preparing for the president to come in the Busoga region.
From?
It's the NRM.
That's another discussion.
Where do you get the money? When we
Where
tell
does
you,
NRM get the money from?
when we
Where
tell
does
you,
NRM get the
Job,
money from?
when we tell you where you get the money from,
I
you
saw,
deny.
for instance, just a minute. I saw, for instance, part of the goodies that are being given out on President Museveni's campaign trail are things that are from Inspire Coffee, the facility in Ntungamo, which received money from government of Uganda to set up a state-of-the-art coffee facility
and that is not true.
in Ntungamo. I have seen they launched a campaign.
You see,
they launched that campaign.
You're a researcher, but you're going to believe
No.
that.
I am telling you, by the way, I have facts on that. I have facts on that.
Job, the fact
We
of the
saw
matter
helmets that are being given out.
The fact of the matter.
We saw iced coffee that is being given out. We have seen a lot of memorabilia that has come from Ntungamo, and it is being given out in this campaign which Bebekul is running. And the question is, you see, we need to respect taxpayers' money, okay? This facility gets a lot of money, okay? This facility gets a lot of money
I think
from the taxpayer, and it goes to run a campaign of a presidential candidate. John, we have to be serious.
Job is a researcher.
Would you challenge Inspire Africa if they told you that they are marketing their coffee? They are using this opportunity.
Let them make iced coffee, okay? For different presidential candidates, and we shall say that they actually are marketing their coffee. But they make coffee, okay? They make coffee I don't research for party.
The party you lean towards.
Gentlemen, we are not having a discussion.
The point I'm making for me is that we really need to, first of all, take the taxpayer a bit more seriously and respect their money. We have traders that are striking. Okay?
That's another discussion that we're going to tackle.
Traders are striking. They're crying about tax and releasing their money to campaign.
Let's allow Tony to conclude. Tony, conclude your point.
If I may conclude, the president, since 2023, he's been laying structures for 2025. As to whether there has been any bits of violence, this is an election. No, we've seen it in the US. We've now seen it in the mayor race. You've seen how people have been throwing words and jabs against each other, even on the stage. Actually, in the US, it's even bad. Even on the stage, people insult you about assault, sexual. Here, when you bring it, people don't want to hear that. But that is campaigns. Campaigns are not a holy journey to heaven. We expect at least some few small bleachers. But also, I want to tell you that there is no one in Uganda, no person in Uganda will disagree this time that the president has not campaigned and no president has not looked for a vote to make him the president of Uganda 2026, 2031. The president has, from PDM, whether you like it or not, from PDM he has campaigned. He has used it to campaign. Why? Because when you
Why not allow him
Let's allow him to conclude.
Give him more rope to hang himself.
No, let me finish it.
Give him more rope.
The president has told you that everything that I do to alleviate poverty is to preach my gospel of prosperity. And that is protecting the gains. And I want to tell you, if the president has since 2023 structured his campaigns, you have
so he has been campaigning since 2023 while blocking other candidates from building structures across the country.
Bobi Wine has been campaigning. He's been opening offices and preaching the gospel of national unity. He's been campaigning. You don't actually deny that. He's been moving. Actually, Bobi Wine has not been curtailed as the Dr. Kizza Besigye, we are crying for, as the Semogereles, you heard what happened in 1996. Bobi Wine has not even reached that, just because Bobi Wine is tech-savvy. He's campaigning in times of technology. But I would want to tell you that every presidential candidate, every time you go to church, every time you go for a burial, every time people see you as if you're campaigning. So the president has prepared his journey to 2031. The manifesto is strong. People are now listening to what the president now gives proof. If he's telling you, these people used to cry, oh, there is no rate of industrialization, kilometers of the road, no security, no what. The president is now moving with screens showing what is your presidential candidate doing in a bid to preach. I think your manifesto is now captured on national unity. But in a bid to do that, it's castigating the president. Castigating the president is not even giving out hing points for his manifesto.
All right, Spectrum X on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a breather. When we return, we'll give a chance to Marion to respond. I'll also wrap up a discussion around this issue and then move on to our next topic of discussion. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. We'll continue after these messages. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. We are still focusing on the presidential candidates, where they were this particular week and the key issues that came out. I'm speaking to Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, political economist, researcher and columnist with the Observer newspaper, Mr. Job Kija, governance expert and team lead at Innovations for Democratic Engagement and Action, Ms. Marion Chirabo, NUP candidate for LOC 5 Woman Councillor, Makerere University, and Mr. Tony Tumkunde is an advocate pundit on governance, human rights matters, and he comes from the ruling NRM party. We have a number of comments coming in from the listeners, but let's first begin with your response, Ms. Chirabo, on a number of issues that came out, including the issue of ferrying, supporters left, right, and center, and indeed from what we saw in Mbarara. Even your presidential candidate was shocked that there were crowds there. Is it possible some of these crowds maybe came from Liantonde, which was his last rally before he actually embarked on the leg in Western Uganda?
First of all, I would say that we do not have those amount of resources to ferry people. If we did, then we would have nominated more candidates. Some of our NUP candidates were not able to nominate because the party could not afford to pay nomination.
No, you wanted more money for the card.
No, we could not afford. That is why we are being tossed up and down for this iPod money that you want to hold us, your government wants to hold, your party wants to hold us at ransom in order to get it we are entitled to it, really. So it's really hilarious and absurd that someone would think that we have enough money to ferry people. That is why Yobian said that our party president was shocked to see those numbers, because we give people nothing to come to these rallies. We have absolutely nothing. People come to our rallies with the hope, like they are actually interested. People are fed up with the current status quo. They want change. That is the truth. They're not comfortable in the situation that they're in. So they come to listen to a message of hope and a message of maybe a Uganda that can actually work for them one day. So that's the reason why they come. So we do not ferry people. But my thing would go to Yusuf, because as a candidate in this election, and I've had it over and over again, democracy is a circus, this election is a circus, we should not participate, we should just boycott this election. There have been a lot of conversation, at least I've had with a couple of friends. My question has always been, you boycott, then what happens? Because Museveni is still going to front people. He's still going to create his own opposition. They are still going to get into power and make decisions for you. and you're still going to end up in the same place that you were. So yes, okay, there's the issue of, let me say, protest, but I mean, that is a catch-22 to me, because, and again, I am not saying that I have answers to those questions, because as someone who has been in organizing, it's a catch-22 for us. It has been, okay, we go for protests. We saw Sudan do it. We saw that at the end of that day, the civilian protest was overthrown by the military.
Infiltrated,
overthrown. We have seen it happen. Citizens have rose up and fought, and still the military has taken their victory. For me, the thing has always been, okay, then how do we balance that politics? How does the citizenry overcome a military government? Because we are under a military government. Our constant participation is a sign of we have not given up yet, and we refuse to give up on our country. That is why some of us, at least for me, that is why I participate, that I have refused to give up on our country. Hey, you're looking at me. I refuse to give up on my country. And I'll continue to use every means available to me to usher in a country that I think I deserve, a country where I'm comfortable, a country where I have every possibility available to me to succeed. You know, that is what I am fighting for, and that's why I continue to participate.
All right.
What are the alternatives that you see?
And there is space. There is good space for you to participate.
I have a follow-up question for her. You know, when you talk about protests, there are some people who are questioning the tagline of your campaign, protest vote, and some people actually think you're planning to cause chaos and things like that. Can you explain what protest vote actually means?
Well, the protest vote is basically, how can I put it simply? It is that, yes, we have continuously had these elections, but the thing is that we can still have, we believe in elections. We believe that the only way to go is democracy, and we have not given up on that. So when you go and cast your ballot, it is you are putting your hand into, you're putting your bid in there, that you are casting your vote for this Uganda that you hope to usher in, and that after casting your vote, we will protect it and defend whatever vote that you have cast inside. How can I say, putting it simply, that we have had NRM leaders, they have done whatever they have done, whatever filth they have done. Let us not stop at giving up on elections only. Let us keep on fighting. It's a way to keep on fighting, because the elections are the only thing that we have as per now. We cannot just give up and say we are going to sit back in our houses and let Museveni take over everything. Let us keep on showing up every day at the ballot and show, at least let it be on record, that when things were bad, we stood up and we fought for the Uganda that we believe in. For me, that's what I see. Like, even you showing up is showing that you're not giving up on this Uganda that you hope for, right, that you're fighting for it.
All right. You know, Dr. Serunkuma was gearing to actually go. Let's hear his
mostly on the protest vote, I think.
Yes, Yusuf.
I mean, first of all, you know, I'm one of those people who really appreciate the work that Bob Wine has done. I mean, before Bob Wine declared his candidature for the presidency, I mean, we even invited him to Makerere University to give a lecture on many things because of the work he's done, mobilizing young people to become more politically conscious. And one of the things that delight my heart is Marion standing in this process. I don't believe in it, but I love her, you know, enthusiasm to participate.
You don't believe in it?
But I loved Marion more when she participated in reforming this country without seeking political office. That was her contribution, an absolute contribution. She did need an office. So when I say this, when people talk about boycott, and I should say I'm not talking about boycott. Boycott is a form of politics. You don't boycott and go back home. So the assumption you're working with here is that once people boycott, they go back home and sit. Let me give you an example. I am a boycotter. I don't even announce that I'm boycotting. I've been persuaded by many forces to stand for parliament. I'm a boycotter, but I've not sat back. I write a column to speak to the country every week. I appear when Anderson invites me. I'm a boycotter, but to boycott is not to sit back. Let me give you an example. One of the most outstanding fellows, way bigger than the opposition nowadays, is Jim Espire Sentongo. He is a boycotter. He hasn't announced that he's boycotting, but he is a boycotter. He doesn't participate in this circus, right? But his contribution to this country in our time is humongous, way bigger than folks studying mainstream opposition positions, right? So the idea of boycott is not to sit back, is to think about, to give your creative energy to other ways of building this country.
There's a listener who is even asking here, what is your alternative? The listener says, if you're saying elections are a circus and so forth, what is your alternative? Somebody sent me a message.
Listen up to the end of the show, maybe we'll find an idea. But the beginning part, I wanted to respond to what Marion said, that, to boycott is to sit back home. No. To boycott is to say, I'm not participating in the circus, but the political space has more ways of being active and reforming this country. The work that Agatha Thayer is doing, Godwin Toko, Marion here has been doing for a very long time, is politics, but it's not standing for office. Right? So I think we want to be clear on that. Among other things, I've suggested to you here, Anderson, that since we know Mr. Museveni is going to win, since we know Museveni is soon to die in office, the jokes we tell ourselves that Museveni will one day wake up. Karejira one time challenged me to start imagining that Museveni will be defeated, and Museveni will say, I have been defeated. People in Chiruhura, I am coming back to sit. And his son will stand up and say, as CDF, His Excellency Bobi Wine, new president-elect, welcome to the office. His son, Moses Kainerugaba. The jokes we tell ourselves. I have suggested many times that I'm trying to build a movement which will simply tell Mr. Museveni, not the Nobert Mao movement, you have done your part. Can you please give us a chance to build ourselves? Give us a chance to build this country without you being a key factor, because the only institution in this country now which is functional is your business.
So if you're saying people should not aspire, like they can build a country without running for office, how would they build a country when there's no leadership?
No, because in the moment we start with an autocracy, right? We want to end the autocracy, and then maybe you can usher in a meaningful... And
Marion believes one of the ways of ending what you're calling autocracy is through an election.
But you see, you can't end an autocracy by pretending you're in a democracy. Let me tell you, the things that opposition people pick fault with, for example, firing people, young kids, opening school, all those things are okay under democracy. The only problem we have in this country is only Yoweri Museveni does those things.
All right.
Look, let me give you an example. Rich people supporting the candidates of their choice is okay under a democratic dispensation. The problem in this country, only Museveni's rich friends can do it. Even if you're rich and you're not really in support of Museveni, you have to appear to be friendly to Yoweri Museveni. You see, so the things that people in the opposition pick issue with are not necessarily bad for democracy. The danger is that only Museveni is allowed to do those things. Only Museveni-leaning people. I wrote in the Observer column which went viral that our dreams in this country have been reduced to befriending Mr. Museveni. Like if you want to make it, like this man here, if he wants to make it, the only thing he has to do is be friends with Mr. Museveni.
I'm not.
No, you see, so the idea. Anderson, let me finish this.
Mario has befriended more than
I think that's a personal attack.
I'll end on this. All I'm saying is that
I don't know who you are befriending,
that
because I know you're making it.
Museveni has to give us a chance to build this country without him being the focal point. No, since we keep returning to the election to challenge him,
he's hopeful that he can give us a chance.
What we have failed to do in this country is to build a movement which demands that of him. We failed. We haven't built a movement of religious leaders, of folks like Marion, to a movement to say, Mr. Museveni.
All right.
But we will not defeat you in an election.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Sarukuma. All right. We actually need to move on. Time is not on our side. We actually need to move on. We have so many other issues.
You don't think the People Power Movement did that? You don't think that the People Power Movement actually demanded for that?
So for me, let me just say two things.
Yes, but
first of all,
in response to you,
in 1 minute, Job, we need to move on.
to answer that, you don't think that the People Power movement did that? Young people coming together and telling you to get out?
I was part of the People Power movement.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what other movement are you looking for that is going to demand
the
for
movement
this?
then, the terms in which it was defined, was to kick him out of office, which you failed to do. Because quickly before we even...
Because people voted for him.
No, before we even...
Right.
Before we even reached the...
I don't know if we can have two concurrent things running at the same time.
They kicked us away.
Kicking out somebody and also participating in an election. I think the people on the opposition side have chosen the path of an election process. We'll wait to see what Dr. Serunkuma's movement will be doing. Job, very quickly in a minute or so.
Believes in all these people.
In a minute.
So for me, two quick things.
It seems you'll have to build your own movement because Marion here believes in an election, Tony believes in an election, and Job is a governance expert. He's going to tell you an election is very critical in the governance process of a country.
Actually, if I had an opportunity, I would ban elections in Uganda.
Okay.
Because in the current circumstances, I would not even be wasting taxpayers' money.
Would you ban multi-party politics or elections generally?
No, I mean, if I had an opportunity and I knew that we are stuck with the autocracy that he's talking about, I would say, please don't waste taxpayers' money on an election. Because it is meaningless to go in an election that is organized by Museveni. If you look at what has been going on over the past 2 decades. So for me, and we're on the same page. But you see,
meaningless for who?
You can't go into an election and you have the fixing that we've had in Bukedia, and you have the fixing that we had the deputy speaker's constituencies. Which one?
That your supporter came out.
No, you can't. I mean, that's not what. Why are you holding elections in the first place when you actually are just going to stampede people and fix elections, and you have fixed results, etc., and you have all this violence that is being meted out? I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's a mockery. The Minister of Justice that supervises the Electoral Commission himself came out and told you that you actually can't expect a transition through an election. He is the one that supervises the Electoral Commission. He's basically organizing the elections. So for me, to Yusuf, I think, you see, we need to avoid falling in the trap of going by Museveni's calendar. Elections are Museveni's calendar. Okay?
No. Elections are constitutional.
No, please. I mean, which has been hijacked. Which has been hijacked.
It's
Okay?
a constitution.
Which has been hijacked. Which has been hijacked. For instance, we are talking. Wait a minute.
Listen, Job.
We're talking about the election.
Job, listen.
We are talking
We
about
know very well
election.
that after 5 years there is an election.
Yes.
And it is stipulated in the constitution.
Yes.
And we know there's an electoral commission, whether you agree with it or not, that
Yes.
organizes this election.
Yes.
And we have people who actually come out and participate in these elections.
Yes.
So we have an election cycle that is constitutional.
You have an election cycle. We are talking about using digital technology in this election. And the different parties that are going to participate in this election don't understand what kind of technology is going to be deployed. Because the question now would be asking is that we've always talked about VVKs. What different is going to happen this time around? Because if you ask all the stakeholders, including the Minister of Justice, he will actually tell you that I don't understand this technology that is going to be deployed. Number two, Yusuf, you see, not participating in these, what did you call it? The circus that we have subjected ourselves to. I think, you see, you need to actually give it to the guys that are participating in this election. Because over the past 5 years, the regime has deployed every resource available to it to contain, for instance, the National Unity Platform in central Uganda. They have branded it a reincarnation of Kabaka Yeka, and they've been saying this is a Uganda party.
That is
okay, listen, please just listen. Now, elections are the only opportunity where these people have had to actually go out of Uganda and be able to talk to people and actually expose the lie that has been told that, this political party belongs to Uganda. But whoever imagined, for me, I come from Hoima. Listen, Tony, I come from Hoima. I can assure you, I was so shocked when I saw the numbers that turned up in Hoima, that turned up in Kigorovia. I'm told actually these guys escorted Chagulanyi from Hoima in the rain up to Kigorovia. You know Kigorovia it is. It is, I think, over 80 kilometers away. And they came back on borders and some were walking, etc. in the rain. And you saw the masses. The numbers don't lie. Now, for me, the point I'm making is that an election in Uganda's case, it's not really, you're not even going there to say I'm going to win or whatever. It is the only opportunity that these guys have to be able to pass out their message. And the one value that we've gotten out of this is for these different presidential candidates to be able to go physically and sell their agenda to the citizens across the country. But also, final on this, you see, for me, I come from a sector where we keep talking about evidence-based advocacy. For a long time, we've been talking about this democracy. It's a fallacy, it's this, it's that, it can't work, okay? This is the opportunity that we have to actually be able to document and expose to everybody that we've been telling that this thing is failing.
All right, very quickly. Gentlemen, we actually need to move on. Time is not on our side. We have other topics to discuss.
I'll take like a minute. Would you allow me? Just a minute.
Please.
Just a minute. I just want to say this. Job, you contradicted yourself.
There we go.
I mean, after you said...
I think you're just going back in circles.
I'm going to contradiction, and then I'll make a bigger point.
Okay.
But, after saying you will ban these elections, and then you're saying it's the only opportunity.
Since it's available.
It's a contradiction.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. Now that we've all agreed that it's the only opportunity to participate in a political process...
Can you get closer to the microphone?
That's the genius of Yoweri Museveni.
Yes.
Reducing all our political imagination to an election. All I'm saying, can we expand the horizons of our imagination from outside, following Museveni's calendar? It's possible. People, you guys talk about a shrinking civic space. Right? No. Spaces are not given. Spaces are created.
Yes.
If they are shrinking, you're failing to create them. So the point I'm making here is this. We have reduced all our energies to discussing the form of... Let me finish this point. I've given the example of Jimmy Spice Sentongo. The work he's been doing is not an electoral process. The work he's doing, he's been able to expand his political imagination away from a calendar.
Let me just say this, Kenneth. The space where I come from, we're also struggling with the disease that you seem to be struggling with. All now, right.
And so you
we may need a doctor to deal with that.
It's erroneous for you to imagine that there's only one strategy that will lead you to the promised land. In the space where I work, we had these people that were so much against diplomacy, okay? And then the diplomatic ones were saying these radicals are so toxic, they are going to create us problems. But then we came to a consensus that, every effort counts, okay? If you don't have the level of conviction that the other actor has, don't discredit or discount their effort. Every effort is contributing towards a certain goal. So let us agree that we have different pathways to arrive at where we want to arrive. Now, for me, Spire is doing amazing work, okay? But let's not use Spire's work and Agatha's work to discount what Bobby Wine is doing. Honestly, I think in 1 minute before you cross, because it's only me that does not.
Let's go to Tony. Let's go to Tony. Let's listen to Tony. Yes.
I think
Tony,
Job agrees with us that an election is the time when you showcase your support. You're surprised that
it is the only opportunity for the opposition to be able to go out.
For over 5 years, you usually tell us President Museveni is losing it. When you go to the villages, he's losing it. You could attest with me that in Teso, where you thought opposition was strong, in Imbale, where you thought FDC, PPF were strong, you have seen the numbers. So I agree with you. At this time, let every candidate showcase that he has the numbers. Politics is all about numbers.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, let's now move on. This week, we also saw the debate about the Nachuvo channel and the city flags that we had and what it really meant for the traders who are now demanding for compensation. We want to look at this issue, but most important of all, what lessons do we take from this particular issue now that we are seeing even the people who went forward to start the redevelopment are trying to work backward to fulfill the conditions that would have been very important even before they began with the project. And I want to begin with you, Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma. I can see you are dejected, but that is democracy. you cannot have everybody on your side, Dr. Serunkuma. You can continue with the column. What we are saying, you can continue with the column in the Observer, and the people like Marion will aspire for office.
It's a personal struggle that I go through many times. When I listen to commentary and strategy in this country, I have a personal struggle that when I look into our imagination, I see there's a bit of anxiety, there's exhaustion We're not trying to be creative. We're stuck to what we know. And it's a personal struggle I struggle with also, because I'm also doing the thing that are known to by everybody. We're not imaginative enough. So it's a personal struggle. Sometimes it makes me dejected, because I'm trying to broaden my imagination, and sometimes I hit a deadlock. I don't know how far to take it, right? Maybe I'll have another space talk about the struggles of an activist. Because we have an expiry date. You never know, one time we'll be struggling to...
All right.
I'm going to respond. You hit me by saying I don't think
we have wasted a lot of time. Okay. Let's go on the issue of the drainage channel and the flood.
I want to begin this way, I mean, I claim to be a socialist, right? I'm a diehard pro-local capital. And as a scholar of, as a political economist, I know that capital thrives with the support of government. Every capitalist has to enjoy the support of government. Now, what has happened in this country is that Museveni doesn't really support his capitalists meaningfully. He gives them some sort of support to go and wrestle with poor people. That bothers me. I mean, I don't want to go into the technical details much. I'm thinking about, a businessman who has the great support of the government, a humongous support from the government, the type of business he thinks he should invest in. And he chooses to go and fight for a channel where many poor people try to get their living from there, and then he also wants to compete with them. We used to have a Sajabalawe who was wrestling with poor people for markets. You see, then there's another one who is wrestling with an ecosystem. Still, even in a small space, he too wants to be there, right? And if I appeal to Hamis Chigundu in a different platform, and I said, if you enjoy this humongous support from government, look for where there is big money, where there's actually humongous amounts of money. In this country we have a transport system which is broken down. How I wish Mr. Hamis Chigundu brought in rails and put rails in place, from here to Kasese, from here to Jinja to Mbali, and you can ferry, say, 500,000 people in Kampala every day. He'll be swimming money. But Museveni rich people don't invest in humongous projects with big money. Telecoms make like 5 billion every day. 5 billion every day. This is where our investors should be. We have Uganda Telecom in Tatas. When Museveni supports a businessman, they don't give them the tools and the amount of monies to invest big. They are taking commissions. They are wrangling with poor people. They are competing with everybody else. That the problem, they have tied their investment to the lifespan of Mr. Museveni's presidency. That you worry that once he leaves office, their business will be dead. So it bothers me that I support the idea that you have a local investor. I fully support the idea because of my sort of socialist communist ideas. I support that, but I don't understand why they wrangle with wrong people. And then they're sloppy. You have all this state machinery behind you, but you can't have the technical finesse to pull off a wonderful job where even naysayers be like, we didn't want him to take the deal, but he has done a wonderful job. It bothers me. You can't have the support. You see, Sharif Abzeki, after the executive director of KCCA, after all this mess happened, gave Ms. Chigundu free KCCA engineers. He would have gotten these engineers from the very beginning. But the Uganda Engineers Association told us there's not anybody registered under the association working on the channel. It's embarrassing, especially if you have support from the government. You can go to these engineers for free. For free. So I wonder, I love the idea that, you're trying to support local business people and do wonderful projects. Why are they sloppy? Why are they amateurish? Why are they wrangling with poor people? You see, because, these are people saying no to developing the channel. You need a man with big money. But if you get the chance to do it with this humongous support, do a wonderful job. You see, that bothers me. The small dreams, very small dreams and small pleasures that you're happy to, if you drive over potholes because you're driving a big car and the others are, hitting the potholes, you feel happy. You see, why don't they go banks, foreign dominated, telecoms, coffee? We have things which are looking for investors. There's nobody. You see, it bothers me, before we go into the technicalities, I'm interested in the political economic space of our so-called tycoons. These people are as broke as us.
All right. Spectrum X on Radio 1 FM 90. That's the voice of Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma. who takes us in this commercial break. Let's hear the messages, and then when we return, we'll hear from the other panelists, and then also the messages that have come in from the listeners. Spectrum Extra continues. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra Live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. We are now moving into continued discussion on the Nachivo channel, and I have a panel for Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, Mr. Job Kija, Ms. Marion Chirabo, and Mr. Tony Tumukunda. And I want to bring in now Tony. Tony, very quickly your thoughts on what transpired. But the most important thing, from the analysis that has been made by politicians, experts, and so forth, it seems the process of getting to work on this channel had very many loopholes. And so we know we will be having more projects coming in the future. But as a country, how do we avoid hitting all these roadblocks so that we have projects that move on without hiccups?
First and foremost, it's appalling for the people that have lost businesses because of the heavy rains. I don't know whether the KCCA and the government generally would see this coming, but also it's unlucky for Ham that is doing this project and it's raining. It's luck for Arias Lukwago because rains are campaigning for him already. I think he foresaw this. But
what do you mean rains are campaigning for him? I don't think he has made this.
He had lost the ground. Marion would tell you that they had brought in an engineer, but now the slogan engineer, the Chibuga Chetaga engineer, now engineer cannot also solve the floods. He's losing it that way. Now the politicians are taking it over, and you've seen letters flying over the boards. This one did this, the other one did that. But coming back home, I think if the engineering review board comes up and it tells you we were not consulted, and it tells you instead of actually digging, you needed to raise it up and put wider walls, wider space where even a graded tractor can go through the channels and pick up the silt and throw it out. It tells you that there was no enough consultation that was done. But I think you would agree with me, and here I would agree with everyone that probably has gone to court, that enough consultation was not done, most especially with the professional engineers. The councillors, before even making such resolutions, and the KCCA, before even giving such resolutions, needed to have expert opinion as to whether this channel could be given away. And most of the people would agree with me that our councillors are not well educated to even know the adverse effects of most of our councillors. Marion is going there. Marion is a lawyer. Probably she could guide. Marion, if you were in that house, in that council, you would tell people that before we give away this channel, let's have reports from the KCCA engineers. Not engineers actually coming after floods have destroyed property of the traders. So that was actually a mess. But also, like Doctor stated, some of the things done in this country, I think, there are people that eye out for the president, give you the deal and do things after. And I don't think if NEMA has told you that they are yet even to issue a report, that means NEMA never put its back to the channel. That means the engineering board never put its back.
But there was a presidential directive.
And that is what I'm telling you. We have seen the president coming up and say sometimes, I was misled, I've consulted enough. And it's normal. But yes, presidents can be misled. Presidents can be misled. And let me tell you, for example, the issue of you saw Chitezi, what the president did, there was a presidential directive to give some people projects to recycle the garbage, and some KCCA people sat on that presidential directive and gave contracts to people that were even amateurish in carrying out their work. So I want to tell you that the president's aims and aspirations for the channel could have been okay. But usually when the president writes PDs, presidential directives, he usually tells you to follow the law. Did KCCA do that?
No, actually the directive was to the Prime Minister.
Did the Prime Minister actually inquire into that? The Prime Minister coming to the channel after it has washed away people's property, I do not actually agree with it. They needed to first go and follow the first step to the last step. Engineering boards, KCCA has physical planners, KCCA has engineers, KCCA. everything. NEMA should go. We have the best engineers in this country. They have given reports. Nothing was done. So that cannot actually be thrown. The president can have, you could go and convince the president, oh, you see, we are going to build shops, we are going to get revenue, KCCA will get this amount of revenue. The president would be convinced. For if you're given a presidential directive, how do you implement it as a prime minister? Do you just carry it on and believe the councillors who are senior for graduates, most of them, that because they have given out the channel, it's okay? You, Sharifa Buzeki, I think it wasn't the time of Sharifa, it was the time of the acting ED that gave that Frank Rusa. It was given out during the time of Frank Rusa, who is a lawyer.
Harvard Law School. Even then, Arias Lukwago is also to blame. Not that because he's a Lord Mayor, is not a speaker, doesn't sit into the council, but when it comes to politics, he needed actually to front such opinion and say, we need to get this, and put it. Whereas there is a PD from the president, we need to do ABCD. I honestly don't agree with the people that allowed harm to construct under those circumstances, rashly construct. Because actually, even from the very start, I think when he was constructing, it rained, and there were all signs that there would be flooding. But they never hit to that. All right. Yes. Let's move on. And I want to come to you, Marion, very quickly. Your councillors from NUP have been hot soup, but I will not take you in that direction because you are not in the council right now. But we want to hear from you. How would we avoid this kind of pitfalls in future?
Well, for me, this particular... And for me, I'm not going to question blame this, this one's fault. Really, the situation just shows us...
You promised to go to court, so you have...
No, for me, the thing is really the lack of the rule of law in Uganda. Because ideally, and courts have really ruled on this, a presidential directive has no force of law. No. It has nothing. It's the president is not parliament, that it can make legislation. It is not, already we know who is in charge of Nachivuvocha. No, it is not the president, it is KCCA. So where that directive, how can someone wake up one day with just that letter? Only that letter, by the way, because everyone denies him, NEMA denies him, KCCA denies him, the council denies him, the executive director denies him. So that means he had only that letter. And they watched him build that structure to the level he built it, and no one raised a finger. And no one, they keep on telling us that they sent their people, but I mean, we have seen NEMA and KCCA chase people out of wetlands. This is a wetland, you should not build here. They even bring for you police. Every time that you want to put up a structure, KCCA inspectors are always at your door, building inspectors. Show us your permit, show us everything. But this guy was left. Even when people came up, different authorities came up, whoever it was, to kind of show their dissatisfaction with what he was doing, no one paid. So today we had a joke that even the media kept quiet about this issue until the floods came up. Like, there was little coverage on it. Everyone was busy going and celebrating the opening of Nachivuvo Stadium. No one was able to talk about harm. So it just goes to show you the level of lawlessness that we have reached at. That no one is in charge, Really, that Uganda has no law apart from Museveni. What he says goes. That we're even wasting our time, Simanyi, sitting down and writing laws and having a directorate. He controls, he's the alpha and the omega. What he says is law. So for me, that is a thing that comes out. And this, I can't look at Nachivuvo in isolation. I look at Chitezi. I look at the fact that every flooding, every rainy season, there is someone who dies in an open drain. And we move on as if it is business as usual. We have some tweets here and there. We come here at Radio 1 and we talk about it. And we move on. No accountability. No one gets persecuted. Of course, they arrested some people for the Chezi incident, but most of them are out. There's only one person who still has charges, and they're out, courts free. And I don't think they're going to even be found guilty. There has been no conversation. Like, there is no remedy for the people of Kampala whenever these things happen. or for the people of Uganda in general.
Right.
So for me, the thing is, as a citizenry, I think there has to come a time where we also look at ourselves. The fact that we have allowed these things to go on and we have normalized them. The fact that we have accepted to die every rainy season. One of us will go off every rainy season, or one of us will go off if there is no proper disposal of garbage. I think we should look back on ourselves that which hand our silence is too loud. Our silence is costing us our lives.
All right.
And we need to do something about it. We need to fight back.
All right. Job, very quickly, before we hear from the listener, very quickly, your thoughts on this Natural Channel project.
I think for me, three things. First of all, I want to try and clear the air that in terms of the instruments that I've seen flying around, really to correct the impression that Tony has created, that I have not seen anywhere where the council was giving out that channel, and I don't think they even have the power to do so. But what, on the contrary, I have seen is letters from the president, from the prime minister, and from the minister for Kampala. And I think for me, they actually need to take responsibility for this. So stop blaming the council, because the council...
You want to blame the president?
Of course. I have to blame the president.
Because of the directive?
I mean, it's really... He gave a directive, and in the Uganda that we are in now, the president gives a directive, everybody keeps quiet. Now, Tony, I think, secondly, and I think this is, what Yusuf was trying to refer to, we are struggling with impunity in this country. Yes, businessman investing a lot of his money, but I'm wondering, why is it that all the investments that Ham makes, there are controversies around them? We are looking at a couple of places. If you look at that building just opposite Makerere University, I think it's in a road reserve.
Yeah.
You go to this other thing down here, the stadium.
Yes.
There are controversies.
Yes.
And
You know the story.
story.
You know the story of the burning of the markets. There's a lot of dirt around him. There's a lot of blood actually.
Your research
There's a lot of blood. No, I mean, I told you I deal with evidence. What do you see? Okay. So for me, I think the kind of business he's doing actually also needs to be questioned. What is he doing? What kind of business is he doing? I think we need to even stop calling him maybe a smart businessman, because this probably is more like just being streetwise or
let's
being more like
stick to the channel.
Let's stick to the channel. So for me, the mere fact that Ham actually has no instrument handing over that channel to him is a problem that we need to be dealing with, because he's actually there illegally. Right now, some people need to be behind bars, including Ham himself, including people in KCCA that actually looked on as these bogus things were going up. I have had the council apparently issued a resolution saying the work should stop. But I think it's not just about stopping that work. That thing has to be demolished, and government has to come up with a clear roadmap of how that thing has to be dealt with. Because that channel, yes, this is not the first time that it is flooding. This is not the first time that people are dying in there. So we need to come up with a concrete, longer-term solution to that challenge. And I think at the moment, without an approved plan, because we understand there's no plan, without an environmental impact assessment, without an instrument that is handing over that channel to Ham, as of now, whatever works are going on there are illegal. Now, finally, we have a big challenge in this country of, first of all, not valuing life and also not being serious, even as a government. Talk about Kitezi. People died, okay? Compensation was promised. To date, no one has been compensated, okay? But people, their homes were destroyed, their livelihoods were destroyed. We have people that have been dying in Akivu. Right now, we have somebody actually to hold responsible, because in the past, probably you are talking about KCA in perpetuity. But right now, you have individuals that can actually be held accountable. And we are not seeing any sense of accountability. And that's why I'm in support of the traders that have been not so much in support of this business of compensating them. Because they ask the question, okay, we are talking about compensation, but when has compensation ever happened in this country in a meaningful way? So for me, actually, I think the guys that are even considering legal action, they should actually sue Ham for illegally occupying that location.
All right, now let's go to the voices of the listeners, and we see what they make of the discussion that we've been having here. There are plenty of comments that have come in from the WhatsApp line. I'll try to read out as many as possible, and we see what this discussion has actually triggered out there. And I begin with this comment. Kenneth, I agree with Dr. Surunkuma. This election is a circus. It does not leave a name. And we have another comment. Good evening. Thank you. I think we are seeing the real hooligans reading from the situation in Kazo. Secondly, this also points to tribalism. Why don't you want others to campaign where you come from? Then we have another. Thanks for the show. In my opinion, as a person, I will not welcome any deceitful preaching in form of campaign to my district, because I've seen that most presidential candidates are just jokers without any good manifesto to build Uganda, just to tarnish others' image. Here in Uganda, we are tired of propaganda. The end will justify. That is Anthony, who forgets that there's a constitutional right for presidential candidates to actually go out there and campaign wherever they can reach a voter. I don't see any democracy here. What is happening all around Uganda, even President Museveni is not part of it. I think these are people who are doing what is not necessary. They contested under NRM and have been lying to President how much people love him. Have been monitoring President Museveni's movement. He's always promoting PDM project and sensitizing people how to come out of poverty. He is not even campaigning because he already knows come rain, come sunshine, he will be the president of the Republic of Uganda. My question to the NRM guy, how independent is the Electoral Commission? Independent regarding one of the player appoints the referee in the game. Then somebody again writes and said, thank you for the show. Please ask Mr. Tumukunde to comment on the office of the president in RDCs and RCCs issuing decrees that NUP should not come to their districts. That's Moses with that comment. And then we have another long comment here about the campaign trail. I noticed elements of violence against some of the opposition candidates, especially NUP, which previously wasn't the case. Previously, this was restoring confidence among the populace. It's pointless to prepare for an election under multi-party democracy, and yet there is a practice of intolerance. The integrity of the EC is under litmus test if it cannot prevail over these violent acts against opposition candidates. Some of the violent acts against the opposition candidates is part of the accountability schemes by the NRM big shots surrounding President Museveni, who want to extort hefty sums of money from him, promising to deliver votes and turn out to cause mayhem. The restocking compensation program has been long overdue. People lost herds of cattle under the watchful eye of the government, and today they can't even live up to its promises of 1 to 3 cows. But trust me, after the campaigns, don't be surprised that it will be shelved till next elections. Not until the constitutional amendments to reduce powers of the president appointing the EC, we are still eating beans mixed with Royco, Michuzi mix, calling it chicken. That's Kamugo Fred Keita with that comment. He's listening in from Chira municipality. Chambade Julius, a student of journalism and mass communication, writes in and said, to what extent does this election violence in Kirula violate the constitutional rights of citizens to freely choose their leaders, enjoy peace and security, and participate in free and fair elections as guaranteed under Articles 1, 20, 21, and 61 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda? And how can the government institution be held accountable for failing to uphold these rights? 71 said that NRM are the masters of violence. Then we have another comment. What happened to those that were arrested during the previous election period? Most of them are still rotting in jail while the top leadership moves freely. Please pause the campaign and ensure all are freed, or rather ask the police to arrest all your leaders. Bobby Wine and people at the top better have a plan, because majority isn't supporting you beyond 15th January if they don't take power. Ready to join you. We can't keep expecting from international community that has its own domestic issues. NUP can't be like FDC and Besige. That's Orlando with that comment. Spectrum is Xtra is illegal for Ugandan security to summon the NUP crew that are allegedly committed crime in Lira, or to write to NUP candidate to surrender those that the police claim to have committed crime, and then ambushing them like what happened in Bizwera, Nongo, and Iganga. About traders, you can't milk a cow that you don't feed. Period. Let the government style up. Then we have another comment. How many hosts are there tonight? Can we have a debate in the studio? That's exactly what I was saying, gentlemen. Restrain that monopolist. Let him give other guests a chance to speak. You are interrupting Doctor, and he can't even finish a statement. Control those NUP guys. They are not properly of ideas for this particular talk show. Moffat writes in and says, Kenneth, those numerous discussions only help to embolden the dictator that there is democracy. People have spoken and their votes have always been altered. But this time the events in neighboring countries will embolden the voters to do what is necessary. Now, the violence against opposition is a replica of the UPC Youth Brigade that made life hard for anyone considered opposition. Because of that, some of them died in exile, while others hunted down by the masses after the regime fell. Unfortunately, we have learned nothing and forgotten everything. That's Ham listening again from Entebbe. NRM should check on their campaign. There is dirty dancing on stage. We need morals. Then another comment, I'm trying to understand Yusuf's call for Ugandans to boycott political activities. What alternative does he propose for citizens who still wish to shape the future of this country? His tone suggests he has completely lost hope in Uganda's political direction. That's Derek there listening in from Entebbe. Couple of comments coming. If we lift the veil, is Ham or someone else? Because Ham seems a qualified rule breaker kabisa. That's Kizito Andrew with that comment. Another comment, what happens to campaign crowds at voting time? Aboki Fred with that comment. And then we have another comment. The Nachifuwa saga delivers one lesson, impunity. That's a comment from Lumbuye, listening in from Zigoti. Another comment from George. Kenneth, all people who defend the regime are shameless. They sell nothing and lose nothing in their life. Serunkuma, how many people read newspapers to read your column and cartoons of Dr. Spire? Thankfully, I no longer buy newspapers. I didn't know he had a column in the papers. Over which paper? That is John Inichanja. May I inform you, John, that Serunkuma is a columnist with the Observer newspaper.
And he writes really well.
We need to allocate Dr. Serunkuma more time. You need to allocate Dr. Serunkuma's airtime to other panelists and push him into the gallery. His submissions don't add value to the debate. That's John Wigo listening in from Namugongo. And it's unfortunate that Dr. Serunkuma has failed to make any point apart from rotating in circles without offering any solution. Dear panelists, good evening from Ethiopia. I wish our politicians, instead of traveling for benchmarking in Europe, they should visit Addis Ababa and other African cities. As an engineer, we might need to do what Nigeria did with their capital city. Kampala will not develop. We need another capital. Lastly, no country has ever developed where politics is put before development. That is Innocent Opio with that comment. Good evening from Ethiopia. I wish I put the same comment. Sorry, it was double sent in. Lawrence, listening again from Entebbe, says, elections are meaningless in Uganda. It's a waste of time, money, but worst of all, lives. That are usually lost in the process. We lose more than we gain from elections. Who among you in the studio honestly believes President Museveni is not going to be declared the winner come January 2026? So what's the point of wasting our money? John Inichanja, Rice says, Kenneth, tell Dr. Serunkuma that boycotting doesn't work. What happened in Tanzania? Doctor, some of us didn't know that there are terrible grass-thatched houses in the west part of Uganda. Look at the terrible roads Bobby has been allowed to preach unity to the country, to resist tribalism. This can only be done in campaigns. Well, it's time for you actually to respond, and let's begin with you, Dr. Serunkuma.
I don't agree with
very quickly.
Elections.
You have 2 minutes because we have to return around the table.
Boycott, the language of boycott. My language is not boycott. I'm just saying we need to be more imaginative than agreeing to work within Museveni's timeline. That's all I'm saying. Just to try to be more imaginative. And the people have been creative. Spice Ntongo, Agatha Tyree, Isaac Samakades, Bang the Table was absolute creativity. Carve out a space that will put the system on the back foot. And that's what he did.
Well, those are good contributions.
So all I'm saying is not limited to those examples. We need to be as creative as possibly could, not to condition ourselves to Museveni's time. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
So I want to make a
I'm afraid we may not have a lot of time because we're running out of
I
time.
got two small comments.
Very quickly, yeah.
Just a comment. These people are bashing councillors in the KCC. I can tell you, 120%, if there were PhDs in council, still Ham will get away and continue with building Nachivugo. Because what Museveni has done to this country is to cheapen education.
All right.
So it doesn't matter who. One more comment. It's going to be short. I'm appealing to the subsequent governments, the government that will come after this one. Every government supports its investors. Please don't pick fault with Hamis Chigundu.
All right.
Hamis Chigundu has an idea.
All right.
It's a good project. But the problem is the way this government, the businesses, the way the selected business people go about their business.
All right, very quickly, Tony, your closing remark. 1 minute.
The president launched the livestock compensation program. People should go to Ministry of Justice. As of September 2023, we have given out in compensation $92 million in compensation.
All right.
It's a big project, so we have not given much, but at least we have given little.
Very quickly, Job, your closing remarks. We're coming to an end of this show.
Really, two things. One is RDCs need really to be called out. The Ministry of the Presidency has to really take action on these errant RDCs, like we have seen in Masaka, that are threatening different political groups. The Electoral Commission needs to take charge of the elections. They need to show us that they are in charge to restore citizen confidence in these elections. I know Serunkuma does not believe in elections, but for me, I want to restate that, this is the only opportunity that different political groups have to go out and sell their message. I think finally, there is this apathy that we are seeing, citizen apathy that has grown over time because, they are participating. The election seems not to be, their vote seems not to be counting. But I think for me, again, this is the only opportunity probably that you have at the moment to be able to engage in the political processes. So let us just try to restore confidence. Let's not discourage
All
people.
right. Marion, in 1 minute, please.
But also I would add that just allowing and of course you said your thing is not to boycott, but I would also say that having at least fresh leadership, at least here in Kampala, also helps to restore that faith. The thing that I don't want us to lose is to lose hope in good governance in whichever way it comes.
All right.
That we can always have these different methods that we can use to usher that in, but let people not lose faith in the fact that one day they can actually have a leadership that cares about them. And that's what, at least when you have a fresh leadership, there's a fresh hope, there's a new vibe. Bobi Wine came in those elections and we had a new movement. And you never know what sparks, which person comes in and really sparks that what.
All right, with that, we come to the end of Spectrum Extra. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for making time to be here. Up next, we are going to have the news from the BBC. Thereafter, we'll have All These Nights live from the governor. From me and the team here in studio, we wish you a fabulous weekend.